Dr. David Levy, welcome to the Department of Future Technologies.
Thank you.
And I understand this is also your first time in Finland.
That's right. I'm a big fan of the music of Sibelius, but I've never been to Finland before.
Okay. So you will be giving today a talk here at the University of Turku with the topic Love, Sex and Marriage with Robots. You are an author of 50 books, and the lately most discussions have been on your book of Love and Sex with Robots, and that's also related to your talk today. You also did your Ph.D. on the same topic to the University of Maastricht, and the thesis was entitled Intimate Relationships with Artificial Partners. But before going into the topic of today's talk, I'd like to look a little bit behind and talk about your background. So you have your background from computer science, and as a professional chess player, you are actually awarded the International Chess Master and Arbiter the titles by the World Chess Federation. So looking back in 1968 already, you started a bet with 4 artificial intelligence professors of not to lose a chess match against a computer program. Please tell us how it all turned up.
Well, it started at a cocktail party during an artificial intelligence conference in Edinburgh, and I was sitting on a sofa next to John McCarthy, who was the man who actually invented the phrase artificial intelligence. And he knew that I played chess, and he asked me if I'd like a game. So somebody produced a chess set, and I played Professor McCarthy, and I beat him. And at the time, I was a reasonably strong player. I was champion of Scotland. McCarthy said to me, "Well, David, you might be able to beat me, but within 10 years, there'll be a computer program that can beat you." And I was very skeptical. I said, "No, John, you don't realize how much of an advance is necessary before that happens." And so we discussed it a little, and he was absolutely certain. And I've always been willing to make a bet. So I said to him, "Would you like to make a bet, John?" And he said, "How much?" Now, in those days, I was earning £895 every year. So I said to him, £500, which was quite a lot for me. And he called over the other side of the room to Professor Donald Mickey, who was the leading AI professor in the UK at the time. Donald had worked with Turing during the war at Bletchley Park on code breaking, very highly regarded. And John said to Donald, "David wants to bet me £500 that within 10 years there won't be a computer program that can beat him at chess." And Donald said, "Can I have some of the bet?" So that's how it started. They each bet me £250, and later other professors came in. By the end it was 1,250 in total, and at the end of 10 years I played a match in Toronto against the World Computer Program, and I beat it, so I won the bet.
I understood that it took a lot longer before actually the computer programs were such developed that they managed to beat you in the
That's right. After I won the first bet, I made another one for 5 years with Dan McCracken, who used to write books about Fortran and programming languages. He was quite a big figure in US computing. I bet him $1,000 for 5 years, and I won that one as well. Then I decided not to bet anymore because I could see it was inevitable that there would be a program that could beat me. But at the same time, I didn't want to remove myself as a target because I'd been there as an incentive to chess programmers. So what happened was that I, together with a magazine called Nova, put up a prize between us of $5,000 for the first program to win a match against me, whenever it happened. And 21 years after I made the first bet, I lost a match to a program which was the forerunner of the one that beat Garry Kasparov.
So you've been inspiring the development of AI.
Yes, I've been the target.
Then you, it was already more than 20 years ago that you put together a team to investigate solutions to the human-computer conversation issue. And yeah, actually this work gave you the Loebner Prize twice, in 1997 and 2009. So what are the key challenges in making computers having a conversation with humans so that the difference cannot be seen?
One of the biggest challenges is for the computer to understand what the human says, and by that I mean not just the words. Speech recognition is one problem which has not yet been solved perfectly, although the latest speech recognizers are quite good, but they're not perfect. The main problem is understanding the meaning of what the human says, and that can depend on all sorts of things. For example, the context in which it's said, the way in which a human says it, and that's a really difficult problem. Again, the technology is improving, the software is improving, but I think we are still, my guess is we are still 20 to 30 years away from having computer software which can conduct a conversation that's so human-like that you can't tell the difference.
So the main prize of Learner competition is still waiting for some time.
Yes.
Then going to social robotics, which is the topic of your talk today. So your title is Love, Sex and Marriage with Robots. You say all these three, so love, sex and marriage, will be considered normal by the middle of the century. Why are you so convinced? Let's start with love.
Well, with love, I examined the research psychology literature to find out why we humans fall in love with other humans. And there are 10 or 11 reasons, main reasons, that the psychologists have identified. And when I looked at each of these reasons, for almost all of them, I said to myself, well, we could make a computer or a robot behave in that way. Let me give you a simple example. One of the main reasons is called reciprocal liking. If Peter knows that Mary already likes him, then Peter is more likely to fall in love with Mary. Now, for a computer program, the computer program can try to make the user think that the computer program likes them. And so that's one of the 10 or 11 main reasons. Almost all of the other reasons can be simulated as well. So I think it's very likely that with the advances being researched in computer personality, computer emotion, computer consciousness and so on, I think with all of those advances, it won't be too long before computer software is able to convince humans that the software really is very strongly attracted to them. As far as sex is concerned, I did a similar investigation. I read the psychology research literature on why people, what the motivation is for having sex and why people enjoy sex. Motivation is very interesting, and one of the biggest pieces of information I got was by reading research reports from psychologists who had interviewed customers at brothels in Australia to find out what the people there wanted from their sexual encounters, because in a way one can say that paying for sex is in some ways similar to having sex with a robot. You know when you're paying for sex that your sex partner doesn't like you or love you. All they're interested in is the size of your wallet. And with a robot, one knows also that no matter what the robot is simulating, it's not loving in the human sense or liking in the human sense. So I felt there was a big parallel there. What I discovered by reading the reasons why the customers in brothels go to have encounters with prostitutes, the main reason is variety. They like having sex with different people, and they like the fact that by doing that they can have sexual experiences, a variety of sexual experiences that maybe they haven't enjoyed with other sex partners. And then I thought, well, robots can also satisfy these two demands. One can see in the future you'll be able to order a robot that looks exactly how you want it to look, so it's can have whatever colour hair you want, whatever kind of figure, can be beautiful, can be handsome if it's a man. And as far as sexual performance is concerned, robots will be taught eventually to manage their sexual encounters according to the recommendations in every sex manual ever written. So I think that the main requirements expressed by the customers of brothels will also be achievable in having sex with robots in decades to come.
So, but then talking about marriage, so what brings you to the conclusion that also marriage with robots will be considered normal by the middle of the century?
Well, there are some trends which make it seem very likely to me. For example, until 1967 in the United States, there were some states which did not allow, there was a law against people who were black marrying people who were white. In 1967, there was a Supreme Court ruling that made it legal across the colour barrier for people to marry. So that's about 50 years ago. Much more recently, of course, we have changed the law about same-sex marriage. If somebody had said to you 100 years ago or even 50 years ago, people of the same sex will be marrying each other, you would say, well, you should be really put in a mental institution. You must be completely crazy. But in the Netherlands, which is a very free-thinking and liberal country, in 1995, the Dutch Parliament formed a committee to investigate the possibility. In the year 2000, the committee recommended that it be allowed, and then on the 1st of April 2001, Dutch law was changed to allow people of the same sex to marry. So these changes are all moving in the direction of making it legal and therefore more popular for marriage to be different legally from the way that we've thought of it in the past. And the history of the institution of marriage itself is another trend. There's an American professor called Nancy Cott, who's a professor at Harvard, who's investigated the history of the institution of marriage. And it's gone from one where the state was all-powerful in deciding exactly what marriage meant and what marriage should be. And nowadays, many couples decide for themselves what they want their marriage to mean, what the rules of marriage are. Should it be a traditional closed marriage where both partners are faithful, or should it be an open marriage where both partners are allowed by the other partner to have relationships with other people? And this trend is moving in the direction of every couple being able to write its own marriage rules. And therefore, marriage with robots is quite possible. If a human wants to marry a robot, why not in the future?
Thank you. Really interesting thoughts and visions for the future. Talking about the future, what are your future plans? Are you perhaps publishing some new book in the years to come?
Well, I was asked by my agent in New York last week, actually, if I would write a new book, and I'm thinking of one. I don't want to say what the subject is, but it's nothing to do with love and sex, but it's also quite interesting, quite controversial. We haven't yet got to the point of defining exactly what the book should be, and I don't have a contract with the publisher yet, but I might be doing that. Apart from that, I'm maintaining my interest in love and sex with robots and marriage with robots. I'm co-chair of an annual conference called the International Congress on Love and Sex with Robots. We've just recently formed an international association for love and sex with robots to sort of formalize the academic world that's interested in these subjects. So I shall continue to pursue that. And in the field of human-computer conversation, I would like to, I've got many ideas, and I've specified many improvements to my conversation software, and if I can find the right partner to support that, I would like to spend some time with my team. I have a linguistics expert I work with, and I'd like to improve my conversation software because I think I could achieve very surprising results very quickly.
Sounds really interesting. Thank you very much for the interview and your visit to the Department of Future Technologies here at the University of Turku.
Thank you very much for inviting me.